Today is June 30th, and today's quote is entitled Patience and a Good Attitude. It is one thing to be patient, but another to keep a good attitude while you're waiting. It's kind of interesting. It's like patience over patience. And patience is an aspect of humility because tolerance is a fundamental aspect of humility. Patience, we could say, is an aspect, if not a fundamental aspect, of tolerance. And patience, it really comes from, or ideally comes from, a spiritual consciousness, because patience means you're accepting what you're not in control of. And as conditioned souls, we know we're all dealing with this need to control. And when there are things we want to control that we can't control, sometimes we go crazy, literally. And we can become very angry and upset. We can speak harshly to others and so forth. So, being patient is one thing, but having the attitude of patience is another thing. Being humble is one thing, but having the attitude of humility is another thing. In other words, what we're saying, there's two things that go on. One is the action, and one is the mentality, which is the proper mentality to foster the action. So, I may act humbly, and I should, and it's good. But do I actually have the mentality of a humble person? That is essential. So what is the mentality? And I've said before, sometimes you have to act if you don't have the mentality, and the mentality will come. But while you're acting, it's always good to try to delve into the depths of the mentality behind it. So if it's humility, what is the mentality? If it's patience, what is the attitude of patience? Is it just that, okay, I'll be patient, but inside frustrated? So I'm acting patiently, but inside I'm not. I'm acting humbly, but inside I'm proud. I hate to do this, but I'm going to serve this devotee, but I really think he's really not a good devotee. I don't even know if he is a devotee. I mean, he dresses like a devotee, but probably he's really not at home. He probably just in total Maya. But I'll serve him anyway because my Guru Maharaj said I should, and that's humility. See, so you want to develop the mentality behind the action. So while you're acting humbly, develop the attitude of humility. While you're forgiving, develop the attitude of, while you're acting in forgiveness, develop the attitude. So that's the idea of this quote. Because a lot of times, acting is much easier than adopting the mentality. And I've seen this, I saw this with myself and many devotees, doing services that we became very proficient at. And so we've done the service for years, and it seemed to us that we could robotically do the service. We could mindlessly do the service, and we would do it well because we've done it, we've perfected it, so to speak, and we've done it for so many years. We didn't really have to think about it. And we would notice that what was missing was the cultivation of the proper devotional attitude, the right attitude for the service. That was easily missed because we had the mechanics of the service down. And we realized that the attitude was much more difficult to perfect than the mechanics of the service. Because even non-devotees are perfecting the mechanics of the service if they're doing something similar. So the difference between ourselves and the non-devotees is the consciousness with which we do it. And it seemed to many of us that developing the consciousness was the real challenge. That was much more difficult. I can do the service, but how to be in the proper attitude of dealing with people properly and respectfully and humbly, or dealing with devotees in that way while I do the service, or being in the proper devotional mood, being very sattvic in my lifestyle and my attitudes, in my thinking while I'm doing the service. So that's the challenge. So that's the idea of this quote. You could be patient, but be patient while being patient. You can be humble, but be humble while being humble. You can act forgivingly, but be forgiving while you're acting forgiving. That's the idea.